I will now give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation. Over to you, sir.
Благодарю вас, господин председатель.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. We'd like to thank the briefers for the information they provided. We're grateful to the UK presidency for organizing the meeting today on the issues which have to do with combating the coronavirus pandemic. One of the key elements of this fight is ensuring there is equitable and universal access to the vaccine against COVID-19. And for this, we need to have a portfolio of effective and safe medications. We need to help the interested member states in supplying the vaccines to those who need them. In our view, most of these issues is something that falls within the remit of specialized UN agencies, first and foremost the WHO, the General Assembly, and the ECOSOC. It is our view that a generalized discussion on this topic is something that is outside of the framework of the Security Council competency. Nonetheless, we stand ready to discuss the implementation of the Security Council Resolution 2532 within the context of that which the Council deals with. Mr. President, the COVID-19 pandemic has become a severe test for all of us. And it showed that it is impossible to ensure epidemiological well-being in one individual country. And it also showed, therefore, how important it is to collectively pool efforts at the international level. In this context, Russia supports the central role of WHO as the multilateral mechanism to coordinate the reaction to the emergency health situation whilst respecting the sovereignty of its member states. Unfortunately, the outbreak, the global pandemic outbreak, did not spare those countries which are in a conflict situation. And for them, the epidemic could worsen the already very serious humanitarian consequences of those. In turn, the fighting impedes the effective conduct of work to combat the epidemic. It represents a threat for the medical infrastructure, and it also diverts government resources from healthcare needs. And that is why Russia was amongst the first to support the Secretary General appeal for a universal ceasefire, and we continue underscoring the need to have a humanitarian pause in conflict areas. We, once again, here would like to underscore that in line with 2532, these measures do not apply to operations against internationally recognized terrorist groups, the groups which are only trying to benefit from the current situation so that to obtain advantages on the ground. We are also convinced that the risk of a worsening humanitarian situation in a conflict situation against the background of COVID-19 should be considered in close linkage to the specific country topics on the Security Council agenda. Despite the fact that because of the COVID restrictions, the UN peacekeeping operations are facing new challenges, so far the UN has managed avoiding a serious nefarious impact on their work. In our view, the efforts made by the Council in order to combat the pandemic need to be focused here on supporting the peacekeeping missions, making sure the peace settlement processes do go on, and on making sure that the appeal for universal ceasefire is being implemented. In this regard, we note the measures made by the Secretariat ensuring that there is immediate vaccination of the peacekeeping contingents in close contact with the group of friends from the interested countries. We think that the vaccinations themselves have to be voluntary. Mr. President, We must remind here that Security Council Resolution 2532 inter alia expresses this support to the appeal launched by the Secretary General to lift the illegal unilateral sanctions which undermine the capacity of impacted countries, especially developing countries, their ability to counter the pandemic and to ensure the socioeconomic recovery from its consequences. The persistent attempts of the proponents of this practice to be silent on this or dismiss it by reference to the non-functioning humanitarian exemptions do not resolve this issue. In this regard, would like to remind you of the President of Russia's initiative to introduce green corridors free of trade wars, free of sanctions, so as to provide the basic necessity goods and medications to those states which need them. Mr. President, Russia is contributing significantly to the global fight against COVID-19, including through ensuring people's access to safe and effective vaccinations. My country was one of the first to develop a coronavirus vaccines. Two of such vaccines, an adenoviral Sputnik V vaccine and the peptide vaccine, which is called EpiVac Corona, have already received registration and are being administered. The third vaccine, which is called Covivac, is on the basis of a neutralized virus, is at an advanced stage and is awaiting registration. The outcome of the clinical trials for Sputnik V, published recently in the prestigious medical journal The Lancet, confirm that it's highly effective and safe. To date, this vaccine, which is much easier to store and transport, has been approved in 27 countries of Europe, Africa, Asia, Middle East, South and North America, and is amongst the three leading anti-COVID vaccines in terms of permits issued. Our vaccines are continuously being considered with a view of including them in the WHO emergency use listing. And of course, we can but agree and share the appeal launched by the State Secretary Blinken when he says that it is unacceptable to have the defamation of vaccine and that it is important to pool efforts. Russia has been extending assistance in fighting the pandemic. We sent 20 medical missions into 15 countries. We have supplied testing systems to 50 countries and also provide thousands of medical equipment units and millions of PPE units free of charge. And we continue our contacts with the COVID-19 Act Acceleration Initiative. We are open for cooperation with interested partners, so increase access to vaccines, medications, and PPE by local manufacturing. And we also stand ready for other kinds of international interactions so as to jointly combat the pandemic. In summary, we'd like to say that there is a great deal of unity among Security Council members when it comes to pooling efforts here and also against the misuse or abuse of vaccine for any purpose whatsoever. To date, this is the most important kind of assistance that we should extend to those who need it. Let me repeat our appeal, which is also applicable to other kinds of international assistance, that this needs to be depoliticized or any political preconditions for its extension are unacceptable. I thank you.
Well, thank you very much, representative of the Russian Federation.